What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Level 11. So, I know I am a little late to this topic, but I figured, you know what, I should probably talk about it at some point, even if it's not immediately. Even in a way, I think it's actually better that I didn't talk about it immediately, as this is a thing that needs to retain its internet presence in order for Sony and PlayStation to get the message that most of the internet wants to get them to receive and actually respond to properly. But yeah, let's just mention it immediately. PlayStation has announced that they will no longer be manufacturing discs for games starting in January of 2028. And so they've already set up the PlayStation 6 generation basically to be an entirely digital platform. Now, I could make this a rant on the PlayStation 6 being digital only and them getting rid of physical discs, but to be honest, the focus of this video is going to be a little different. Don't get me wrong, we're here to address that is a problem, and it is a big problem. However, in my opinion, the PlayStation 6 has not just one problem, not two, but three massive problems that it has going into its development and release. And these are the big three reasons that I personally do not see myself buying a PlayStation 6. I don't see it happening. So let's get into those. And I'm going to go in backwards order as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the online community realizing these issues. And the first one is no physical games. Now, I can't really think of anything to say that hasn't already been said by thousands, if not millions of people online when it comes to the problems with a physical disc and when it comes to the market. Like when it comes to a digital only platform, I guess is a better way to put it. It's like I can't trade my games with friends, I can't sell my games, Sony can just decide to shut down the game or remove it from my library, all of that, yada yada yada. That's a big problem, right? So, obviously I don't like that. It's a little different on PC because PCs are an open platform and you can kind of, bend the framework when it comes to how to keep your games even if they're still entirely only digital because of how open of a platform PC is. So for the people who say, oh, but Steam's been doing it, PC players have been dealing with it for a long time, that's a different case. You have one store by, one online store by one company who has 100% of control over the prices, the refund system, and just how they handle the entire distribution network of a digital-only platform. And so that in and of itself is its own thing. I don't think that needs much explaining if you're already here on such a, niche YouTube channel such as mine. So, yeah, obviously it's a problem. Obviously it's, another reason why I'm not going to buy a PlayStation 6. But let's get into the one before that had come up, and that is price. When it comes to pricing the PlayStation 6, obviously this AI bubble has been growing and growing and growing, and it's resulted in hardware components becoming insanely expensive, exponentially expensive compared to what they have been in the past, and not even that long ago. It was only like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, where you could get good computer components for, well, what seems like now a very reasonable price. And we're looking at a future in which the next PlayStation system, baseline, bottom of the barrel, like the cheapest that they will sell this thing at, is at least $1,000, but it could be as low as $1,200 and as low as $1,500, maybe even more expensive than that, which is hilarious in my opinion. But yeah, completely digital platform, very, very expensive. Games probably are only going to be $70+, and that's not even like, that's not even the worst. I've saved this one for last because it's the one that was the most apparent, the most early on, and is the biggest deal. The PlayStation 5. Don't get me wrong, I like my PlayStation 5. I play a lot of games on it. I'm having a good time with it. It is my main go-to, although I have two PCs, two Nintendo Switches, one of them being a Nintendo Switch 2, obviously, So I game on a lot of different things, but I do play my PlayStation 5 a lot. That being said, what sells a platform versus another platform is its exclusive titles. And there's this, I do not remember this guy's name, but he's an old YouTuber from back in the day. I don't even know if his channel's still on YouTube, but there's a pretty famous video from back in the day by a guy named Chad Warden, who did a trolling video on why the PlayStation 3 was so bomb, like why it was so good. So bomb. But yeah, it was, this guy did a reply to that Chad Warden video, and the main thing that he said about the PlayStation 3, and I quote, "No fucking games." Now, again, don't get me wrong, I don't think the PS5 has that issue as much as the PS3 did back when that reply to Chad Warden was made. However, if we take a look at the big exclusive games, and I use the term exclusive loosely here, because each of these games individually is not actually exclusive, except for maybe the most recent, like 3 or 2. But let's do a head count. We'll start with Demon's Souls. That Demon's Souls remake, specifically, is entirely exclusive, but by the nature of it being a remake, it's not exclusive. If you want to play Demon's Souls, you can also play it on a PlayStation 3, not just a PlayStation 5. I enjoyed the Demon's Souls remake enough, it was enough for me to want a PlayStation 5, and for that to be the only game that I got for it at the time, and hey, fair enough. I'm not even going to mention Astro's Playroom, like, in any real depth, like, that doesn't really count, like, whatever. And then we had Returnal come out in 2021. Now, honestly, as far as a single-player game, not bad. I mean, I played maybe 20 hours of it. It was way too tough, in my opinion. Like, the amount of fun I was having versus how difficult it was, the balance wasn't there to get me to the finish line personally. Now, I still have my physical copy that I borrowed from a friend in exchange for my physical copy of Final Fantasy 16, so I can still play it and, try to beat it someday if I, feel like beating my head against a wall, but, not great. Now, I'm pretty sure that Returnal did get ported to PC. So when I say Returnal's an exclusive, I mean, it's a console exclusive as far as PlayStation is concerned. You can only play it on the PlayStation 5 console. If you're gonna pick a console and you want to play Returnal, you have to go PlayStation 5. Okay, and that was the 2021 exclusive that I could think of. Alright, moving on. Actually, now that I think about it, I gotta add Sorrows to this list. So, let me do that really quick, okay? Moving on, we had 2 big games come out in 2022 for the PlayStation 5 that are exclusive to PlayStation hardware, as far as consoles are concerned. Again, these also got ported to PC, but they also got releases on the PlayStation 4. And they are Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok. Now, I played both of these games. I did not beat God of War Ragnarok. It is the only mainline God of War entry that I have not beaten. I lost interest in it, but that's a totally different discussion. I did beat Horizon Forbidden West, like I completed the story for that game. So, yeah, but I, again, borrowed a physical copy from a friend in order to do that. And then, those are both PlayStation 4 games, so we didn't get the most that we could have out of those releases as far as graphical fidelity and potentially gameplay variety and things like that, world size, whatever. So we also had Spider-Man 2. Now that was a PS5 exclusive until it got a PC port in 2025. So it's much like Returnal, also available on computer, but if you want to play it on a console, it's got to be PlayStation 5. Now, this next game that I'm going to mention is the only true PlayStation 5 exclusive on this list so far, and that's Astrobot. And I love Astrobot. Out of every game that I mention here, Astrobot is the one game that I truly enjoyed. Like, 100%, no problems with it whatsoever. Love Astrobot. That's a good game. That's a really good exclusive for PlayStation 5. The next ones are Ghost of Yotei, Death Stranding 2, and Sorrows. None of which I've played. none of which interest me. Maybe Death Stranding 2, but even then, like, I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy it when I do finally get around to it, because I do plan on playing it at some point. But I do think Death Stranding 2 has a PC port as well. I could be mistaken about that, but I'm pretty sure it's also on PC. So, that's what, 9 games? Yeah, 9 games. You're still in the single digits as far as exclusive PlayStation 5 games. At least for now. Wolverine is like a couple months away, so granted, that's going to be on the list as well at some point here. I know that God of War Lafe is going to be on PlayStation 5, but I don't really care. Like, I didn't even beat Ragnarok. Why would I be interested in Lafe? This is all just to say, like, the PlayStation 5 system, as far as exclusives are concerned... Oh, you know what? These are only the interesting ones. I forgot to mention Concord. Oh, boy. Oh, Concord. And I mean, you know... Out of all these are all single-player titles. Concord obviously is not. They're still working on Fair Games, which could be, which potentially might have been retitled Break-In. But, oh, you know what? I also forgot about Helldivers 2. Man, I'm slacking. Okay, I'm sorry. We are in the double digits then. And I like Helldivers 2. So I will throw that on there as well. Hold on a sec. Helldivers 2. I've got a list on my phone here. Anyway, so... there has been more of an emphasis on making multiplayer live service games. When you include Helldivers 2, you include Concord, you include Fair Games / Break-In, right? And then there's been a really long, like, cross-generation period, longer for the PlayStation 5 generation than there was for the PS4 generation, okay? And you can see that with games like Ragnarok and Forbidden West and, you know, plenty of others that are not, like, first-party games, but they're definitely there for sure. And then you also have... I forgot to mention Ratchet and Clank. Okay, honestly, I'm forgetting about a lot of these games, but granted, let's say I include Ratchet and Clank. Let me write that in. What was the subtitle for that one? Rift Apart? Yeah, Rift Apart. So, personally, I'll go over these individually just really quick and my problems with each of them. Demon's Souls, Unfaithful Remake. Returnal, too tough. Horizon Forbidden West, PS4 port. God of War Ragnarok, PS4 port. Spider-Man 2, woke. Helldivers 2, actually I don't have much problems with Helldivers 2. I like Helldivers 2. It's got a PC port, but that's fine. I like Helldivers 2. I mean, I could get nitpicky with it, but I won't. I look back on that game fondly, and I still play it from time to time. So we've got one that I have no problems with so far, and a good reason to buy PS5 if you don't have a PC. So I guess that's the main issue, quote unquote. It's like I'm talking about this from the perspective of like, why should I buy a PlayStation 5 if I don't already have one? Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. You can tell they're trying to replace Ratchet with this female Linux character, you know, whatever. Yes, I am one of those guys that cares about, you know, hey, don't get me wrong, I'm okay with a female lead in Horizon because that was always the case, and Aloy was a likable character, at least in her first game. Not so much in the second one. She's got that Squidward, everyone's an idiot except for me kind of attitude in the second game. That doesn't come across that way in the first game, in my opinion, personally. Anyway, they're trying to replace Ratchet in his own intellectual property, and that's another, you know, God of War Lafe, I think, is also, you know, that's also an issue, in my opinion, personally. Yes, this is an anti-woke channel. Fucking deal with it. Astrobot. I have no problems with Astrobot. Love Astrobot. And it's not even, like, it doesn't even have a PC port. Astrobot is the one absolute... Okay, this is justification to get a new system, as long as there's other games like it, but yeah. Ghost of Yotei, woke, replacing Jin Sakai with Ugly Woman, yes. Sorrows, woke, you play as an Indian and you get cucked at the end. That's by a woman, no less. You try and get back with your wife, and she becomes a lesbian, and, you know, it's woke DEI narrative bullshit, ESG narrative bullshit. Death Stranding 2, Thematically, I mean, Kojima's pretty left-leaning as far as I'm concerned, because he's just so, like, involved with the Hollywood community, and he's, like, you know, friends with actors and film directors and shit, so that is one thing. The Metal Gear games are actually kind of woke when you think about it in hindsight. It's just anything before 2016 wasn't as heavy-handed with that stuff, for the most part, with the occasional exception, like the DLC for the first Last of Us or whatever. But my main thing about Death Stranding 2 that is like a red flag to me is Deborah Wilson. If you put Deborah Wilson in your game, I automatically tag you as at least somewhat woke. Which, by the way, she is in the Wolverine game. I noticed. I don't know if any of you guys did. I know I noticed. I know Synthetic Man noticed. Fucking, you can't, you know, hide those bug eyes behind the veil for very long. Anyway, Death Stranding 2 has Deborah Wilson in it. I know, I get it. Some of you people don't care. Oh, I don't care if a female character takes over my hyper-masculine character. You know, that was a dude for 20 years, you know? You don't need to play Kratos in God of War, herder. Oh, you don't need to be Jin Sakai in Ghost of Tsushima, herder. Yeah, you know, you can feel that way if you want, but if you do feel that way, I'm not gonna come to you for relationship advice, and I'll leave it at that. You know, so there's not, like, there are exclusives for PlayStation, but, and I mean, you know, they are going to be making them for PC, like, less and less often. It seems like they're not going to be doing it at all, really, except for maybe multiplayer titles, and good luck with those, because the only one that has hit it off is the one that Sony had little to no creative control over. And they saw little to no promise in, and it actually ended up being their best one, the most profitable one for them by far. So Sony doesn't know what they're doing. I don't trust Sony to give me games that I want anymore. I went into the PlayStation 5 generation expecting a sequel to Bloodborne. The PlayStation 4 generation started off so good with Bloodborne. You get From Software to make literally one of the best video games ever. And you set a tone where your hardcore audience is like, oh shit, Sony's not fucking around. And then they do nothing with it. They don't even get a 60 frames per second patch out for PlayStation 5, no PC port, refuse to mention it like 98% of the time. I'm shocked that we're even getting a Bloodborne movie, to be honest, you guys. So, all digital future, way too expensive, no fucking games that I care about. And you know what, like, why would I invest in that? Why would I, you know? I'm actually really glad that PlayStation 5 emulation is starting to kick up, because, you know, we just gotta vote with our wallets, you guys. It's already, like, it was already not looking good to get a PlayStation 6 a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The sentiment building up when people were hearing, oh, 2028, PlayStation 6, everyone was already saying that's too soon before the price increases and before the all-digital future was shoved in our faces. So, anyway, I guess my whole point of this is them announcing that this is going to be a digital-only console. I mean, that's not exactly what they said, but they might as well have. That wasn't the last straw for me. It's just, like, I was already not getting a PlayStation 6. And then they said that, and it's like, okay. Now I don't even want a sequel to Bloodborne. I don't want Bloodborne 2. I don't want a Bloodborne remake. A 60 frame patch, sure. But I don't want From Software to make games exclusively for Sony ever again. So, anyway, I think that's all I have to say about that. What do you guys think about the digital future? What do you think about the price increases? What do you think about the PlayStation exclusive lineup that they've been able to build up so far? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff, and we will see you all next time. Until then, keep leveling up, everyone, and take care.